It's a fascinating story. Donald Trump picking up money and support from Silicon Valley, of all places. Joining us now, investor and entrepreneur, Mr. David Sachs, co-founder of Craft Ventures. David, thank you for coming on the show. I'm Larry Kudlow. Greetings. I want to read you. This is just a little bit of fun, but I'll get your take. One of our digital stars, Brooke Singman, interviewed Mr. Trump, and the headline read, "Trump touts Silicon Valley support, says tech leaders can't relate to low IQ Biden. I have a high IQ, period," end quote. What you make of that, Mr. David Sachs? Tongue in cheek.
Well, yeah, there's an old saying, many a true word said in jest. And the president frequently says funny things, but there is a serious point to it. I think there's no comparison between the cognitive abilities of these two men. I mean, I think what we saw last night at our fundraiser for President Trump is that he was very sharp, very on the ball. He stayed for something like 4 hours. He talked to everybody, talked to the whole crowd. Everyone loved him. And then at the same time, you saw Biden at that D-Day event, and it looked like he couldn't keep up with whatever he was supposed to be doing there. So I just think there's no question about which of these men is cognitively more with it and intact.
David, you reportedly raised $12 million, which is a nice piece of change. You can probably do 3 or 4 times as much in the next few months, maybe more. How many people were at your event?
We had something like 100 people there. Right. Larry, when we agreed to do this event, we started off, the question was whether we could just raise $5 million. And that was the goal because, as you well know, the Bay Area is sort of a liberal bastion. And so we thought that $5 million might be a big lift. But as it turns out, we got all the way to 12. And, tremendous turnout. We couldn't fit one more seat in the place. We were completely sold out. And I'll tell you, it wasn't just the enthusiasm in the room. It was also the enthusiasm outside the room. So all week, San Francisco publications have been writing about how there are going to be big protests in San Francisco because Trump was coming to town. As it turns out, hundreds of people turned out in the streets, but they were pro-Trump demonstrators, and they were welcoming his motorcade. And the number of anti-Trump protesters was just a handful of people. So even with the protesters, there was a tremendous enthusiasm gap between the pro-Trump side and the pro-Biden side. And if that's in liberal San Francisco, what does that tell you about the rest of the country? Well,
we've had, similar experiences here in blue state New York. David, I know I hate to generalize, but what do you think some of the key issues? We've got a minute and a half or so. List a couple of the key issues that you think are moving Silicon Valley folks into the Trump camp.
Number one, the economy. I mean, the economy under Biden right now is anemic. We're down to 1.3% GDP growth. There's been a huge spike in inflation, which has eroded the purchasing power of Americans by roughly 20%. You have the fact that interest rates have skyrocketed in response to that, and that's been very bad for people who are involved in deploying risk capital. You also have foreign policy. I mean, the world was at peace under President Trump. Now it's on fire under President Biden. You have the border. I mean, we basically have had a de facto open border under President Biden. He first gaslit us by saying for 3 years there's no problem, in spite of videos showing masses of people coming across. Now he's finally signing an executive order to do something about it, but it's way too little too late. So I think all of these issues matter to not just Silicon Valley, but the whole country. And then finally, there's lawfare. I just think it's profoundly un-American to try and lock up your political opponents. We've never seen anything like this before in American history. I know my parents fled a country to come to America because they were reacting to political prosecution like that. And I think that it is really turning people all across the country against this Biden administration.
And you'll raise a couple more bucks out in Silicon Valley. That's what it sounds like. I got to jump off. I got a hard break. Silicon Valley, David Sachs, thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming.